Okay, for folks, it's mid-morning. What about 9? No, it's earlier than that. It's 9:15 on the Thursday morning. Or Thursday or Friday, I don't know which. I don't have my watch on. Once again, I've run into the trouble of a watch band causing sores underneath, and I've taken off my watch, and now I don't know, where this is. It's what, Thursday, October 9th, 2025, 9:14 a.m. local time here in Alex City. I happen to want to sit over here for convenience, mainly simply being in one chair for too long is a burden. But it occurred to me, oh, this is Windows, so I can look down here and get the local time and so on. So now you have the time, and I'm doing this because of something else than the time, although it is on the spur of the moment. I clicked on someone going along with events, just ruminating, I'll say, something to do with Crossroads or something like that, and quoting somebody else who had written an article. And the two of them, the one he was quoting, and he himself in front of the microphone and camera, not as monstrously as I do now, Unfortunately, this is pretty bad. I can plainly see that on the screen here. But someone like myself, at the moment, I'm being inarticulate and stuff, presents a package that is at least as bad as what I'm trying to respond to. He talked about a rhetorical question is the South, is America going to be faced with a new confederacy, or for that matter, is the world going to be faced with a new confederacy? And I thought, aha. And then sure enough, the simple fact is the reference is made to the Southern Confederacy that was attempted in the United States over 2 centuries ago, or rather what, I think it was settled by 65, wasn't it? By 1865, the answer turned out to be no. There will be no confederacy alongside or below the United States. But many people think only of that attempt, and only of the word confederacy used by the southern states. But how many know that before that, confederacy was cited as the reason for a new constitution for the United States, because earlier arrangements had been basically a confederacy, and it was found to be almost useless, except as the temporary basis for reorganization. And indeed, there are many things that are confederate. Nevertheless, so that, logically, if the question is whether there will be a new confederacy is going to be taken somewhat seriously, I would think that it would have to refer to more than, what some people think is the only confederacy, namely the the Confederate States that tried to form a nation from their secession from the United States. The problem I have is a lack of an understanding of history. When people start bandying words around, and many people will think that what they're talking about is similar to the United States as it faced down the proposed Confederacy. I don't know what they're going to say about Confederacy, but I'm prompted not only by the lightweight attempts to come up with something to say, but also by a similar mess involving the word liberal. The word liberal now is used to refer to bad people, disorganized people, dumb people, whatever. But liberal, it is illiberal indeed to misuse the word liberal, because in fairly literate, I'm not talking about astute, I'm just talking about fairly literate people know that conservatives and liberals occupy the same space. But what the nature of that space is might be specifically characterized in terms of just how incoherent players happen to be, whether it's a circus, which is organized, or an arena where there is no circus, rather there's something else altogether. But anyway, every day I run into people using the word liberal when they ought to come up with something better. It's the same with conservative. Although I gotta say, it seems to me people are at home with the word conservative with the same level of insight as people who think they know all about the word Confederate. That's like taking a word like pregnant. Back in the day when people started using the word pregnant as it's usually used today, it didn't mean that a woman was expecting a child. Pregnant meant that anybody was expecting something or other, but it was used as a euphemism back when communications were just beginning to be as powerful as they are now, when a few people saying pregnant was, a use of the word pregnant to refer to women with children. It got used a few times, and it went around the world several times, and people then more and more would just say, oh, well, a woman is pregnant. What else is can you say any other pregnancy? And if you ask that question, I'd say most people don't know. Can anybody be pregnant but a woman? Well, in some very clever circles, some people have said that men can be pregnant. Yeah, well, because what? Because being pregnant per se doesn't refer to kids at all, except that's the way most people take it. They think if somebody's pregnant, that means that a woman is expecting to give birth. Or what? A woman is expecting to have an abortion, or whatever. But anyway, So now when you hear this hideous thing months ago, about pregnant men, as explained by Dr. So-and-so of Harvard and some others, they didn't explain it in terms of ideology. They didn't say, well, actually, pregnant just means that a person is expecting. You could have many other uses of the word. I won't get into examples because I don't like the way it gets interpreted nowadays. Just as, for example, if people have a mental reservation when they use the word pregnant, and then they say that men can be pregnant, then there are two problems with that. One is some of them actually think that all it refers to is a clever use of the word that many people don't know about. And another interpretation is that they somehow figure on something else to argue about. Of course, there is sympathetic pregnancy, and astute medical people know what that is. But I'm not going to get into that. Now then, there are other words that get used terribly. If I say, I'm so poor that I'm niggardly. If I'm niggardly, does that mean I'm so poor that, what? Well, the word niggardly means to be stingy. And in the beginning, it had nothing to do with the N word that people rarely have a use for, unless it's a term of endearment among friends who know who I'm talking about. But now you better not ever say that somebody is niggardly or that you are niggardly, because I'd say 90% of people probably think that you're saying something really that you might not have intended. Although, on the other hand, there might be some people who misuse the word, meaning exactly what people think that they mean, because they don't know that the word never meant that until they came along with their ignorance, and many others came along with it. Another one, let's see, golly. I was just thinking one, I forgot it was sneeze, out with a sneeze and gone. But there are a lot of words like that. And I see them every now and then, and I just had to say, look at this perfect example. Now they've come up, they did what? Broke through the writer's cramp or the writer's blockade and are thinking in terms of whether or not there's a new confederacy. And I have to think, well, then you're going to have as many people, confused by that as they are when they hear the word liberal used to describe, terrible things. Another word like that come to mind too is the word populist. The word populist, didn't always mean what people mean by it today. Specifically, there was a term, rabble-rouser, that referred to what people mean now when they say populist. They overlap a little bit in that, populist campaigns or concerns were aimed at Joe Sixpack rather than, Ivy League sorts, But neither the Ivy League nor Joe Sixpack groups are generally thought to be rabble. The rabble are considered to be the unorganized and low information louts who have clout only because there's strength in numbers. The appeal of populism was that it was an attempt by people, sometimes dirt poor farmers, land poor, whatever, to try to organize and bootstrap back into a viable economy, and much that they campaigned for was later incorporated into democratic policies before democratic policies were trounced and trashed in recent time. So, the rabble are all over the place, but they are found in the Republican Party and where there used to be a Democratic Party. I still hear, particularly from the states, or other levels of government, it's as though people want to remind me that what's really gone is a viable national party for Democrats. That's probably more accurate in a specific way. But when I look at the state organizations and so on, I don't see much there worth the loyalty now being talked about. I'm unimpressed. So yeah, I say the Democrats are just gone, missing in action, I'd say. Not AWOL, they're just gone, without a trace, vanished. Like where's the last carrier pigeon? Where's the last National Democrat? I don't know, but I don't hear from any of them. What I hear from are people who think they can put on a costume and pass themselves off with plausible authority, where in effect they prove they don't even know what the game is. There have been some recent develops in the news, and the best they can do is say, well, I'm prepared to be a martyr because I know what I'm talking about. And I feel like, well, sure, honey, sure thing. Well, but, language is worth some attention, and if people run out of things to write about these days, I would suggest, well, there used to be some people who used to make it their business to point out what people were saying when they meant something or didn't or what. For example, they'll say, well, hopefully this, I want hopefully to do this. No, you don't. That too is now, though, I think it's been edited into the proper uses, but to begin with, it was wrong to say, that you hopefully this or that. Now I think it's considered okay, a concession. But there are many other things, like all this stuff. But I don't advocate these mental reservations that some people think are so clever. Like men can get pregnant, and the mental reservation is about, using the word pregnant to cover a lot of things. It's the case that now the word is almost exclusively used to mean something to do with female activity. It's also true, though, that scientists have discovered, sympathetic reactions in men if they have a close partner who is what we call pregnant. But I've never heard those experts say, well, the man is pregnant along with his wife. Of course, I have heard people say, and I think it's okay if a man or woman said, we are expecting a child. That to me is something that people can do in tandem, but not all the. People like to fight. I know people like to fight, but if you come into a room ready to play chess, in fact, if there's a whole bunch of people playing chess and in comes someone with boxing gloves, I would just say, it doesn't make that more reasonable if he brings several friends with him. It's just improper. But look what they did in France. They took a tennis court and turned it into a reign of terror. And in effect, they had meetings in other places. But anyway, I'd be glad to be corrected if you could tell me that there is a Democratic Party or Democrat Party, whatever, at the national level. What would be the best indicators? If you remember when there was a Democratic Party, even the fairly dysfunctional, George Meany days. I say that with some affection. I should say what UAW days or whatever, or whatever. Or FDR. Democratic Party, as in the FDR days, fine. I don't see anything like that anymore. And people are looking around in the various states, saying, "Well, here's a state that has, some Democratic organization." Well, that just doesn't cut it for me. You might as well be, William LaFollette or something, arguing about semantics. I think, people should pay attention to semantics, linguistics, dialectic, but instead they can't, and I think I know why. And I suspect a lot of people know why. Nevertheless, the demands of modern media do not exclude giving attention to any number of things. I'm unprepared, though. As you know, I'm unprepared to do any better. For example, right now, I'm not feeling well, I'll say that much. So I'll quit now. It's 22 minutes and counting, and when I hear somebody talk about liberals, I might as well hear people talking about Confederacy and think, well, is that going to make much difference? It could, but I don't think it will. All right, it's over 23 minutes. I'll say I will be able to pay attention to media a little bit more. I finally did get the wires needed for the speakers, so that I'm not always dependent on headphones or earplugs. But that's not saying much, I don't have much content to refer to in that, but I could, and many have alternatives, I'm sure of that.